Imagine this. A stunning billionaire woman in her late 50s, dressed in a sleek evening gown, standing alone on the balcony of her penthouse overlooking the glittering city skyline. Tears stream down her face as she clutches a diamond necklace, a gift from the man she thought loved her. But tonight, she's just uncovered a stack of emails proving he's been scheming to drain her fortune. Her heart shatters like glass underfoot. What if the one person who could save her from this nightmare was an unlikely hero, her wise old lawyer grandpa? Before we dive deeper into this roller coaster of love, betrayal, and redemption, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and how old are you? And here's the question that's going to keep you hooked. What would you do if you discovered the love of your life was nothing but a gold digger, and the only way to find true happiness was with the help of a grandpa who knows every trick in the book? Let me take you back to how it all began. Elena Voss was no ordinary woman. She'd built her empire from scratch, turning a small tech startup into a billion-dollar conglomerate that revolutionized renewable energy. At 58, she had everything: private jets, sprawling estates in the Hamptons and Monaco, and a circle of influential friends who envied her success. But deep down, Elena felt a void that no amount of money could fill. Her first marriage had ended in divorce decades ago, leaving her wary of love. "I've got the world at my feet," she'd confide to her closest confidant. "But who's there to hold my hand when the lights go out?" That confidant was her grandpa, Arthur Klein, a sharp-witted 82-year-old lawyer who'd practically raised her after her parents passed away young. Arthur wasn't just family. He was her rock, a retired attorney with a lifetime of courtroom battles under his belt, specializing in high-stakes divorces and fraud cases. He had that grandpa charm, twinkling eyes behind bifocals, a penchant for telling corny jokes, and an uncanny ability to sniff out deceit from a mile away. One crisp autumn evening, Elena showed up at Arthur's cozy brownstone in New York City, her designer coat draped over her shoulders like armor. She paced the living room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "Grandpa, I think I've found someone," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. Arthur set down his newspaper, peering at her over his glasses. "Tell me about him, Ellie. What's his story?" The man in question was Marcus Hale, a dashing 45-year-old entrepreneur with chiseled features and a smile that could light up a boardroom. They'd met at a charity gala 6 months earlier, where he charmed her with tales of his startup ventures and shared passions for art and travel. Marcus showered her with attention, romantic dinners on yachts, spontaneous trips to Paris, gifts that screamed luxury. But Arthur's instincts kicked in immediately. "He sounds too good to be true," he muttered under his breath as Elena gushed about their whirlwind romance. If you were Elena, blissfully caught up in the thrill, would you listen to a skeptical old man or chase the butterflies in your stomach? As weeks turned into months, Arthur watched from the sidelines, his worry growing like a storm cloud. Elena invited Marcus into her world, introducing him to her business partners and even discussing joint investments. "He's the one, Grandpa," she'd say during their weekly dinners, her eyes sparkling. But Arthur couldn't shake the feeling. He started digging quietly, using his old legal contacts to run discreet background checks. What he found sent chills down his spine. Marcus had a history of failed businesses, mounting debts, and whispers of previous relationships with wealthy women that ended abruptly and profitably for him. "This guy's a classic gold digger," Arthur thought, his heart aching for Elena. He remembered his own late wife, how true love felt like a steady flame, not a flashy fireworks show. How could he break this to her without shattering her spirit? One night, over a glass of scotch in his study, Arthur decided to intervene gently. "Ellie, love isn't about grand gestures. It's about trust, shared dreams, and someone who sees you, not your bank account." Elena laughed it off at first. "You're just being protective, Grandpa. Marcus adores me." But doubt crept in, especially when Marcus pushed for a quick engagement, hinting at prenups that favored him heavily. Arthur suggested she test the waters. Why not introduce him to some of my old friends? See how he handles real conversations. Elena agreed, organizing a dinner party at her mansion. Among the guests was Reginald Thorne, a 65-year-old widower and retired professor Arthur had known for years, kind, intellectual, with a quiet strength and no interest in wealth. Reginald had lost his wife to illness 5 years prior and lived modestly, focusing on philanthropy and writing books on history. Arthur had a hunch. Maybe this was the senior man Elena truly needed, someone genuine in a sea of pretenders. The dinner started smoothly. Marcus dominated the conversation, boasting about his latest deals and name-dropping celebrities. Reginald, on the other hand, engaged Elena in deep talks about literature and life's simple joys. She found herself laughing genuinely for the first time in ages, reminiscing about her childhood dreams. Marcus noticed, his charm cracking into subtle jealousy. As the night wore on, Arthur pulled Elena aside in the kitchen. See the difference? One's performing, the other's connecting. Elena's mind raced. Was Marcus really after her heart, or just her fortune? Later that evening, as guests left, Marcus cornered her. That old professor, he's boring, Elena. You deserve excitement. But his words felt hollow now. Days later, tension built. Elena confided in Arthur about strange financial requests from Marcus, loans for his business that he promised to repay. Arthur's face hardened. It's time to uncover the truth, Ellie. He proposed a plan. Hire a private investigator to tail Marcus and review his communications. Reluctantly, Elena agreed, her heart pounding with anxiety. What if Arthur was wrong? What if she lost the one man who made her feel alive again? But as the investigator's report came in, piece by piece, the evidence mounted. Secret meetings with lawyers about asset transfers, flirtations with other affluent women. Elena confronted Marcus in a heated argument at her office, her voice breaking. Is any of this real? He denied it at first, but his facade crumbled. Just as Elena was about to end it, a shocking twist hit. Marcus revealed he'd been working with an accomplice, a sly young woman posing as Elena's new assistant, feeding him insider info on her finances. The gold digger scheme ran deeper than they thought. Arthur rushed to Elena's side, his lawyer mind whirring. We've got to expose them both, but carefully. As they plotted in the dim light of her study, a knock echoed at the door. It was Reginald, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. I heard you might need a friend, he said softly. Elena's eyes met his, a spark of hope igniting amid the chaos. But before they could react, Marcus burst in, furious and desperate. Marcus slammed the door behind him, his face twisted with rage, the bouquet Reginald held suddenly looking fragile in the charged air. You think you can just cut me out, Elena, after everything I've invested in us? His voice cracked with desperation, more than anger. Elena stood frozen between the two men, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Arthur stepped forward, calm as ever, placing himself slightly in front of her like a shield. Son, whatever game you're playing ends tonight, he said quietly, his lawyer voice steady and unbreakable. Reginald, still holding those simple wildflowers, didn't say a word. He just looked at Elena with eyes that said, I'm here if you need me. No pressure, no demands. Marcus laughed bitterly, pulling out his phone. You have no idea how deep this goes. I've got lawyers too, old man. And screenshots, recordings, enough to make your precious granddaughter look like she promised me half her empire. Elena felt her stomach drop. Was he bluffing? Or had she, in her loneliness, said things in late-night whispers that could be twisted? Arthur didn't flinch. Threats don't scare me, Marcus. Evidence does. And right now, I've got plenty pointing straight at you. Wire transfers, offshore accounts, that little assistant of yours singing like a bird to save her own skin. Marcus's bravado wavered for the first time. You could see it in the way his hand tightened around the phone, knuckles white. Elena finally found her voice. "Get out," she said, low but firm. "Whatever we had, it's over." Marcus took a step toward her, and Reginald instinctively moved closer, not aggressive, just present. That small gesture hit Elena harder than any grand romantic scene ever could. Marcus saw it too, and something ugly flashed across his face. "You're choosing these fossils over me? A broke professor and a grandpa playing detective?" Arthur smiled, the kind of smile that had dismantled liars on the stand for 50 years. "Better fossils with integrity than a shiny con artist, kid." Marcus lunged for the door instead of toward her, spitting curses as he left. The slam echoed through the penthouse like a gunshot. Silence fell heavy. Elena's knees buckled, and she sank onto the leather sofa, tears finally spilling over. Reginald set the flowers gently on the coffee table and sat beside her, not too close, giving her space. Arthur poured 3 small glasses of water from the bar cart, hands steady even at 82. "It's over, Ellie," he said softly, handing her a glass. "But the hard part's just starting, cleaning up the mess." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "How did I almost let him take everything I worked for?" Her voice broke. Reginald spoke for the first time since the chaos. "Because you have a huge heart, Elena, and lonely nights make us all vulnerable. That doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human." Over the next weeks, Arthur went full lawyer grandpa mode. He coordinated with the private investigator, froze suspicious accounts, and built an airtight case against Marcus and the accomplice. The young assistant flipped completely, handing over emails and recordings that proved the whole scheme. Marcus tried to disappear, but Arthur's old contacts in law enforcement made sure he faced fraud charges instead. Elena watched it unfold with a mix of relief and lingering shame. "I should have listened to you sooner," she told Arthur one evening as they sat on his brownstone porch, watching snow dust the city. He chuckled. "You did listen eventually. That's what matters. Love makes us blind, Ellie, but it doesn't have to make us stupid forever." As the legal storm quieted, something softer began to grow. Reginald kept showing up, not with flashy gifts, but with quiet consistency. He'd bring homemade soup when Elena was buried in board meetings, or suggest long walks in Central Park just to talk about books, history, dreams they'd both almost given up on. One afternoon, as they sat on a bench watching kids build snowmen, he turned to her. "I don't want anything from you, Elena. Not your money, not your connections. I just enjoy your company, the way your mind works, the way you laugh when you think no one's listening." She looked at him, really looked, and saw a man who'd loved deeply once, grieved honestly, and still chose to open his heart again. No performance, no agenda. Arthur watched from afar, a satisfied twinkle in his eye. He invited them both to Sunday dinner, serving his famous pot roast and telling embarrassing stories about teenage Elena building her first computer in his garage. As the nights grew longer, Elena realized she was falling, not the dizzy, fireworks kind of falling she'd chased with Marcus, but a slow, steady warmth that felt like coming home. One spring evening under cherry blossoms in the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, Reginald proposed with a simple vintage ring that had belonged to his late wife. "I know it's not diamonds the size of quarters," he said, a little nervous, "but it carried a good love once, and I'd be honored if it carried ours now." Elena cried happy tears for the first time in years, and said yes. They married quietly the following fall, just family and close friends, in Arthur's backyard strung with fairy lights. Arthur walked her down the aisle, whispering, "Your grandma would have loved this one, Ellie. He's the real deal." At the reception, Arthur raised a glass. "To beating the gold diggers, not with money or suspicion, but with patience, honesty, and a little help from an old grandpa who refuses to let his girl settle for less than she deserves." Everyone laughed through tears. Elena caught Reginald's eye across the crowd and felt, for the first time in decades, completely seen. Looking back, Elena says the greatest fortune she ever gained wasn't protecting her billions. It was rediscovering that true love doesn't diminish with age. It deepens. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And sometimes it shows up holding wildflowers instead of champagne, offering steady hands instead of empty promises. If you've ever doubted that real connection can bloom later in life, or wondered if you can trust again after betrayal, let this story remind you, it absolutely can. Guard your heart, yes, but don't lock it away forever. Hey, if this story touched you, made you tear up, or gave you hope about love at any age, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button so more people can find it. Drop a comment telling me what part hit you hardest, or share your own story of finding real love after heartbreak. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications. I've got more true feeling stories coming that'll keep you hooked till the very last word. Thank you for being here with me tonight. See you in the next one.